And welcome to another episode of the Free Thinkers Podcast, a show that believes in free speech, original thought, desire for truth. Hope everyone is having a great week. Back here with Dale Murphy. Dale, how was your week? How was your trip?
It was
out
good,
west.
Man. Yep, went out west, went out to Arizona, visited some friends. It wasn't as hot as it's going to be, so that was nice. It was nice to not sweat, like whenever you just walked outside for 2 or 3 minutes, so that part was nice. But yeah, had a really good time, enjoyed the weekend, went out over on one of the lakes they have there in the middle of the canyons, and went out there and just boated around with some people and ate and just had a good time, and happy to be back in Florida.
Were the lakes low?
They were a lot. So I guess they said there's some places where they're a lot lower than where they were at because they have a lot of runoff from the mountains that's still going on. So, they looked like maybe they were 6 to 8 inches low, but it wasn't like.
Not like Lake Mead?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you could still. Everybody was out there skiing and had jet skis and all kinds of stuff out there. So, it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. So, what about you? What'd you end up doing?
Just doing a lot of work, and I am trying to discipline myself. I've been on this carnivore diet.
Oh.
I was going to announce it last week, but I didn't think I could make it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of held back.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, had been doing a lot of that, food prepping, and just kind of cleaning up around the house and all that other stuff. So, in 10 days, man, I've lost 10 pounds. So it's pretty awesome.
How difficult is it?
It's not hard.
Yeah.
And I have more mental clarity and energy than I've ever had. Cutting out sugar and carbs is one of the greatest things. And there's a lot of insightful information, I guess you'd say, talking about how plants have all these phytotoxins and a lot of stuff in them that really cause issues for people. And of course, some people are a lot more sensitive than others. So, but I think we'll have a whole podcast on that because that just blows my mind because it turned everything that I've ever thought about this completely on its head. And, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to think that just eating all meat, you get all the nutrition that you can. Of course, I supplement a little,
right,
a little bit more than because, you just want to make sure you get potassium and all that other stuff for your heart and all that other good stuff. But it's been wild. Like I said, it's been really, really awesome to have that energy again. Because once you get older, once you start eating bad, once you start falling into bad habits, your energy just goes zap. There's so many people that I've talked to about that. They're like, man, I need to do that because my energy's gone. And I'm like, trust me, it comes back. I mean, I've lifted weights on it. I've ran on it, cardio type stuff.
Right.
Walked. I'm on my 27th day of meeting all my goals. So hadn't hit them yet today. So when we get done with this, I got to go home and walk those 2 dogs and make it happen. But
get those steps in.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's really
cool,
is.
Man. Well, yeah, keep us posted on how that goes. So.
No doubt. Well, we're going to talk about something other than politics tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I mean, I'm always excited to be here, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to, we got the notes that we share with each other and, just kind of going over it and, really excited to what I think, some stuff that people need to hear, especially where we're at right now, in society and just with everything going on.
And this is something that I'm learning and trying to apply just as much as we're going to share this because I'm not sharing this like I've got this all together.
Right.
I probably struggle more than 95% of the people that are watching this with a lot of these things. But I had a friend send me this in a text, and I'm going to read this. And this is the story. We're going to talk about the eagle and the crow. Okay. The lesson of the eagle and the crow. So it says, the only bird that dares to peck an eagle is the crow. The crow sits on the eagle's back and bites his neck. The eagle does not respond nor fights with the crow. He doesn't spend time or energy on the crow. Instead, he just opens his wings and begins to rise higher in the heavens. The higher the flight, the harder it is for the crow to breathe, and eventually the crow falls off due to lack of oxygen. Learn from the eagle and don't fight the crows, just keep ascending. They might be along for the ride, but they'll soon fall off. Do not allow yourself to succumb to the distractions. Keep your focus on the things above and continue rising. And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, that's so exactly what I need to do because there's so many crows in life.
Oh yeah.
All these little distractions and of course, once I read that article, I started doing research on crows and eagles and all the other stuff. And, there's a lot that you have to use as an analogy to life, because crows are always in packs. They're scavengers. They steal things. They're just kind of annoying birds. They do have an ecological purpose, but you can't eat them.
Right.
I mean, they make noise.
They're annoying.
They're all over the place, know, and they disrupt other birds, and they pick on eagles and that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, this weekend I saw one chasing a falcon around my neighborhood. It was wild. I'm like, man, we're talking about this on Tuesday. Get away from here, man.
Yeah.
But in our life, I think we just have so many crows, and we turn and we focus on those instead of focusing and moving forward and being like that eagle and just not even worrying about it. Rise high. Crow can't live at that altitude.
Yeah.
He'll fall off, and you'll be where you're created and designed to be, which an eagle's designed to soar, and a crow's designed to, scavenge and annoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for all those people that love crows out there.
I wouldn't think the audience is made up of too many crow lovers, like that you're going to get some hate mail. It's such a powerful story, though. I mean, just like we talked about, just with the different things that you deal with, your focus can get so caught up in so many things. I mean, each and every day, there's something that, whether you're reading or you're watching or something even that, happens to you, there's so many things that can take your focus off of what it truly should be on. And, it's such a great story as a reminder of, to remind us what we should be doing and how we should be acting and how to react to the things that are happening to us. Just powerful stuff there.
Yeah. And I think, you've done a lot of goal setting. I know I've done a lot of goal setting. One of the biggest acts of that is to start by writing them down. Like if you write them down, that is 50, 60, 70% of it. I mean, I've seen where years and years ago, I went to a Peter Lowe seminar back when I was in film school, I believe. And I remember writing all these goals down on a hotel note card.
Right.
And I remember finding them 10 years later. And I almost hit every single one of them. It was wild. I mean, down to the exact car I wanted to drive. I was driving that exact car at that time, and it was interesting. But I think that's a great first step to that, is because, if you're not aiming at anything, you're hitting nothing dead on the head. I remember Les Brown saying that, and I think it's so important to do that. And again, I'm speaking to myself. I don't have an active goal list right now, or that I revisit on like a weekly or monthly basis, which I think is important.
Yeah.
I think that's something I need to do. I need to get that, going. And so, the things that I know that I've heard, it's like my, the one word for the year, action, kind of throws that back into it. So I need to take action to write those goals down, because they're powerful. And I think when you write them down, when you have goals, then you know what you can't be distracted from.
Right.
Because it's probably easy to get distracted if everything's fluid.
Yeah.
But if there's some foundational aspects or some goals that you want to hit, those are the things to focus on. So I think that's a preface and a foundation that we didn't have in our notes, but I think that's going to lead us out from the rest of this, because I think there's not only goals, but there's other activities in life that I think are important that we can't let the crows of life get distracted for. We need to understand what we're supposed to do. And if we have, something on our back, we rise.
Yeah. And going back to like what you're just saying, I wrote something down in my notes that we didn't have in here. And we all have heard it probably before on whenever you're setting goals, like the way to do it is the SMART way. Mm-hmm. And so it's where they're specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then time bound. Because there's so many times, like, we could say, oh, I want to lose some weight, or, what, I really would love to have that car, or, what, I want to save this amount of money this year, but if you don't really, like you said, writing it down is the first thing, but then you've also got to make it realistic. You've got to make it attainable. It can't be something where like, hey, I'm going to have $30 million here in the next 6 weeks. You need to make it something that's going to be attainable, something that's realistic. And then as well, it needs to have some type of a time table on it to where it's not just, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Well, okay, how are you going to lose 20 pounds? How long is it going to take you? What are the steps that you're going to take to actually get there? And so, and
what are some of the things you're going to give up to make it happen?
Right. Yeah, because there's always, usually almost always in a goal, there's going to be something that you've got to give up in order to attain the goal, because there's something else, whether it's sitting down to eat that fried chicken and mashed potatoes, that would be great, but if you want to lose that weight, then you have to rethink what you're doing there. So yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of the times that we sit down and we think about goals, we think about things we want to do in our life, and we just have to be more specific and exactly, we have to define what it is exactly what we want. And that's one thing that I've been telling myself lately is so many times whenever you think about your life and what you're wanting to do, so many of us don't know what we want. And it's defining what is it that you want? What is it that you're striving for? What is it that you're trying to obtain? And it doesn't have to be materialistic things. It could be whether it's spiritual or whether it's friendships or relationships, whatever it may be. What is that? And define that, and then set those parameters like we just talked about in order to try to make that a reality in your life.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And like I said, when I read that text about the the eagle and the crow, there's so many things in life too. I mean, not just goal specific, but daily specific.
Yeah.
Again, we could be working on something and then we're going to check social media, or we see the latest story that pops up on our watch, and then we get diverted and distracted and go down that path. Or, we get a call and we start talking, on the phone for a long time and just not focusing on what we need to get focused on. And, I used to work incessantly. I mean, I work a lot, but I used to work like 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And I remember when I bought the place in Georgia, that kind of helped me refocus what I was doing, because I really I knew I needed to get out. I knew I needed to have a different hobby rather than sitting behind the computer and that kind of thing. And that house needed a lot of work. It needed me as much as I needed it.
Oh, for sure.
And
I remember.
Yeah, that carpet was pretty bad after ripping that thing out. But one of the things that made me do was say, okay, I'm going to work as hard as I can Monday through Thursday. And then when I'm done Thursday, I'm going to drive up there, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's my time.
Yeah.
It's my time to do what I can do. And I started doing, carpentry stuff and watched YouTube and learned how to do a lot of stuff. And it's still hanging up. So it worked for 5-6 years. But that really helped me balance things out, because I had a goal. I wanted to fix that place up. I wanted to be able to get up there. And so it was within the SMART, acronym.
Yeah.
And it was, definitely attainable and measurable. And that was something that really helped kind of refocus and reposition my work ethic in life, and to know that you have something you can look forward to once you get done with the work. It made me eliminate all the wasted space in my work day, so I could focus and get that stuff done, so I can get up there and make that happen. And that was a big deal for that.
Yeah, for sure. So, going back to the eagle and the crow thing, what are some things that you find that are distractions? What are some things that act like the crow? Besides, I know you mentioned social media, what are some other things that, that can take our attention off of what we're actually trying to obtain in our lives, or trying to be the type of person, that God wants us to be, or that we're trying to be for our family?
I think just the news.
Yeah.
A lot of times that. I mean, I think, at least me, I'm passionate about politics. I'm passionate about health. I'm passionate about kind of current events and spirituality. Looking at those things through the filter, of a Christian lens.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times I'll listen to podcasts or I'll listen to something and it will get me either stirred up about something where I want to fix all the problems, or, I just get distracted learning all this other stuff that really, I don't really need to go down that wormhole with. And, gosh, I mean, there's a multitude of things. I guess it just depends on what your weakness is. I mean, some people can probably get distracted with food and just want to eat all day. And, I mean, I've been there before too. I mean, sometimes you see something, you're like, man, that looks really good. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of different, distractions in life, that can easily get you, and that you can easily dive into. I mean, some people would be TV,
right.
Binge watching TV shows, or, computer games or something. I've never played a computer game. I don't ever think I've ever played a computer game since the Atari, when they had the little stick and the one.
You never played the Oregon Trail on the computer?
No.
When people died of dysentery?
No, I did not. I did not. I played River Raid on the Atari, man, and that was it.
That was back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think, so there's so many good things that we can focus our attention on, and I don't know if you've ever read that book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, but it's like a lot of times those companies that he would go in and look at and do this research, it was like they were good companies, but it was like their focus was, so scattered. It was all over the place. And it was like you said, it was like you could be on a mission on one way, and then all of a sudden, something, a text, or whether it's something you see on the news or this, that maybe it's something good that, hey, I can dive into here, or hey, I want to change this, I want to help with this, but it's gotten you off of what, you've been called to do, what you're great at. And so instead of getting our attention diverted, in all kinds of different ways, sometimes we got to reset and go, okay, each day almost, and almost it's hour by hour of like, okay, what am I doing? What am I trying to accomplish? What is the main thing here today? What am I trying to be? Who am I trying to be? And trying to bring out greatness, and not just, okay, I'm accomplishing a lot of good things, but achieving greatness.
Yeah, I think compromise obviously is one of the things that you have to do with that. There's been plenty of times I've taken a media fast, just not turned any social media on, any news, anything on. Most of the time when I go to Georgia, sometimes I won't even watch anything. I won't pull anything up, and it's the greatest time. Just sitting on the porch, not even worrying about. I mean, you have cars coming by, and that's it. You
watch them hit the speed bump.
Hit the speed bump, watch the train come by.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so sometimes you have to do that. I know one of these productivity books that I've read talked about when you wake up in the morning, the last thing you want to do, the first thing, is to check your email.
Yeah.
They said just keep that, like make a rule to not check your email till 10 or 11 o'clock, because your brain is most productive and creative in those early hours of the morning. So get all the distractions aside, work on the things, and make a list of the things the night before that you want to work on and really accomplish. And then I think towards around 3 o'clock or so is when your mind is just not in a very creative mode. I mean, it's been used a lot throughout the day. You're probably recovering from food and that kind of thing. That's when you need to start responding to all the emails and doing the meaningless tasks. But the first part of the day, reserve for yourself, or reserve for, those high creative, thought-provoking tasks.
Yeah.
And obviously way easier said than done.
Super difficult.
Especially, I mean, I think if businesses and corporations would embrace that and allow that to happen, I think they would be exponentially more productive.
Absolutely.
But yeah, sometimes it's tough. Sometimes, I mean, a lot of people schedule meetings early in the morning. I try not to do that.
Yeah.
My earliest meeting I try to schedule is at 10 o'clock. For that reason, I like to get up, 6:30, force myself to eat a little breakfast, because I'm just not a breakfast person. And then I'll go upstairs and start to work on a project. But for me, I have people in a different time zone that I'm working with, and so I have to catch them before, they go to bed and things like that. So anyway, it's an interesting balance, but I think having that focus and knowing what your lifestyle and work schedule and all that will allow you to do. I mean, gosh, who knows?
Yeah. So we've talked about the eagle, and we talked about trying to not focus on the distractions. what about when it's time to fight back? What about when it's time for, that, hey, enough is enough. The crow's not letting up. I've tried soaring as high as I can go. He's still breathing the air here. What do we do then? What at what point do we go, okay? And what do we do? Like how do we fight back in a manner that's not going to have us lose our minds and have us lose our people go, my God, what just happened to them? So what's some ways that that we can do that?
I think that's the toughest question, to be honest with you, because that's something that I try to balance all the time. And I sent you the podcast yesterday that Steve Dace had.
Yeah.
One of the biggest takeaways from that is he was talking about kind of what God was revealing to him. And he was, he's a fighter. And he said, I need more apostles, not assassins. Mm-hmm. And that kind of hit me because I'm a person that wants justice for everything that I see wrong. Yeah. I mean, you turn on the news, not the news. I don't turn on the news. I, look online at the news.
Yeah.
And yesterday you've got, these two kids in Chicago that stole a car, speeding away. They run into the side of this truck and it kills this guy's 6-month-old baby in the back. And these two kids are only charged with misdemeanor crimes. They're not going to spend a day in prison.
Yeah.
They're just going to get a slap on the wrist, go out, probably do it again because there's no consequences for their actions. And here this guy is having to bury his 6-month-old baby.
Yeah.
To me, if I was that guy, we'd go tombstone level. I'd say if the government's not going to take care of this, I'll take care of this.
Yeah.
And I know there's some friends of mine that would help me take care of this.
Right.
But that's what I struggle with because that's me. That's myself. That's my flesh.
Yeah.
I want to take vengeance out because I think so much what we're seeing is an imbalance of justice. We're seeing because of one's race or something, they're turning the scales and saying, if this color does it, it's okay. But if this color does it, we're really doing crazy stuff. To me, I truly want equality, equal treatment under the law. It's based on the law. Let's make that happen. And so to me, that's where you have to turn back to what God commands you to do. God is definitely one for justice and fighting in the right time, but he's also there for grace because we've been given that. I mean, look how vile and awful we are in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And to receive the grace that we have, the unspeakable love and compassion, it's something that we have to, turn back because as people, we are those kids that hit that car. We're guilty.
Yeah.
What does Jesus say? If you think evil thoughts in your mind against somebody, you're a murderer, right?
Yeah.
So we're murderers just with them. It may be a different context as far as in the flesh, but to God, it's not. And so we're given that grace and mercy. And there was an article I saw because like I said, I struggle with that. There's a balance between that. There's a balance between extending grace, walking in love, but fighting back and standing up for those that can't stand up for themselves, And so this article, it was pretty interesting because it talked about, I think it balanced that out. But it says a generation ago, pop star Bonnie Tyler famously asked the question, where have all the good men gone? Since then, the situation has only gotten worse. As C.S. Lewis noted, men in the Western world have largely been emasculated, and men in the church are seldom an exception for this decades-long trend. To stand strong in one's faith in Jesus Christ and push back at culture that, in the words of Isaiah 5:20, calls evil good and good evil, is today seen to be divisive, unloving, bigoted, and intolerant. Mm-hmm. This is because evangelicals in the English-speaking world have confused Christ's command to love others with being civil, as if that were an attribute of God, which it isn't. As a consequence, a superficial, self-righteous, good-for-nothing pietism that prefers tone to truth and style to substance have displaced authentic Christianity in many of the roughly 400,000 churches in America. This doctrinal malpractice is giving us a generation of men, Christian and otherwise, who are what C.S. Lewis called men without chests. Don't know the sort of Christians I'm talking about? I'll give you a hint. They are the sort who will, upon reading this article, take great offense at what I've written here and waste no time in letting me know, but are not particularly offended at the 61 million children murdered in the Holocaust of abortion since 1973, by universities that are incubators of radicalism, by Democrats who are compiling a hit list of Trump supporters, or by the godlessness of the Marxism they openly advocate, which has killed no less than 125 million people in the 20th century alone. Too many Christians today are risk adverse. They prefer the safety of family life centers to engaging in the culture in any way that might cost them something. God forbid they might sacrifice their wealth or comfort, endure the social media mob, or be excluded from the neighborhood barbecue. To such Christians, the woke messages of pastors like Tim Keller and John Piper are all a justification to do what they are inclined to do anyways. Nothing. But that doesn't strike me as a Christian at all. C.S. Lewis called Christianity a fighting religion. Think on that. These days, such a statement strikes a somewhat absurd note with a generation that has never known war, privation, or suffering in defense of anything, much less of noble ideals. For them, Jesus has been reinterpreted to meet a lifestyle preference. One might wonder if they truly know him, because when Jesus said to turn the other cheek, he did not mean to turn a blind eye. And the highest calling of a Christian is not to be civil, it's to be salt and light. I thought that was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a definite emasculation taking place in the church. When you look back at, the founding of this country, the Black Robe Regiment was one of the most instrumental things in this. That's how we won this. I mean, pastors were men that, they had to take the fight out to people.
Yeah.
And defended the freedom that was under assault from the British coming trying to take rule and authority back, and they were some of the greatest heroes that we don't talk about anymore. And so I think that there's a balance that we need to have to again stand up for truth and walk in love and extend grace and mercy where we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's we see throughout the Bible, the grace and mercy that Jesus gives, whether it's the woman that commits adultery and you've got the guys that want to stone her, and he says, hey, the one of you, whoever has no sin, go ahead and cast the first stone, but then you also see the side of Jesus whenever he goes into the temple and knocks over the tables, and kicks the people out that are selling things inside of the temple. So there's a fine line. And I think, like you said, it seems like in a lot of our churches, there's the number of men that you see in church is dwindled greatly, and I think that's for a multitude of reasons, but I think a lot of it has to do with, just like what you're saying, is whether it's the emasculation of men, or as well, just thinking that, they don't have a place in church, or the belief systems that are going on today. But yeah, there's I wrote in here, I don't know if you saw in the notes I had added about Aaron Tippin's old song that we had whenever we were growing up, said, if you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you've got to have that. You've got to have that foundation of belief of where it says, you know what, the buck stops here. Like, I'm willing to have grace and mercy, and I'm willing to be kind, but at some point you've got to have your truth and your foundation that you stand on and say, you know what, it doesn't go past here. Mm-hmm. Like this is as far as I'm going, and I'm not going any further. And so, we all have to come to that point, and we've got to define that for ourselves, and we've got to, instead of just allowing Christianity over the years has just gotten more and more just real soft, real milk toast, like where it's just watered down based on what's going on in society.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've got to get back to what is the true word of God that says this is what it is, and there's no more of yeah, I can see how you feel that way, so yeah, okay, you know what, everybody's okay. And instead of being that way, say, no, this is what the Bible says, this is what we believe, and this is what we're going to stand on from here on out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that needs to happen. I think there needs to be, more involvement with men in a lot of different areas. I don't have kids, but I went to the school board meetings about the masks. I was an advocate, for those that didn't have an advocate. And at that meeting, very, very few men I can count on both fingers how many there were there, and there were hundreds of people there.
Yeah.
I mean, probably 500-600 people there, and I saw 10 men.
Wow.
So, the moms in a lot of those instances, especially in church too, are the leaders in the home now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, God bless them for it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Republican Party, how many just complete strong speakers are women compared to men? There's a lot of men in the Republican Party. Very few stand up and will fight for anything.
Yeah.
A lot of the women will,
Right.
but very few men will. And you can just cascade through society and see where women are actually the more in the alpha class than a lot of the men. And I think it's not to be, chauvinistic or anything like that, but there's naturally created roles. And the role of a man, is to be, to hunt, to bring home food, to protect, and to be the leader of the home, the spiritual leader of the home.
Mm-hmm.
The job of the woman per the Bible is to be a helpmate. And that doesn't mean she's any less. It's her natural role that works so well together.
Yeah, you come alongside, not behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that with pushing, women to do certain things and to elevate that status in society, and for men to be called this, that, and the other when they try to stand up to be a man, and then they just back down and don't claim their position. Again, that's society pushing that. Like you said, you have to pick where you stop. Yeah. And I think the church needs to pick to stop of, okay, we're going to teach men how to be men.
Yeah.
Instead of, we're not going to teach men how to be nice. Because that's really a lot of these men's groups and that study,
right.
You get together and you see how feminine you can be.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that disparagingly. Like, I've been to a couple of these men things, and it's like, nobody acts this way in real life.
Right.
They're all this kumbaya. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go together and fake shoot guns. It's just like, what? So again, I think there's real issues that can be addressed. And there's, one of the sayings we had during COVID is, one by one, we all say no. And I truly believe the power of one, but the power of one, not even to say no, but one by one, we all say yes. I mean, we can all say yes to embracing certain things and standing up for certain things, and you don't think the individual has the power to make a real big impact until an individual does something completely destructive and devastating. And then you see the power of one person.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do the opposite, and one person has the power to do an incredible amount of good too.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all just have to realize that power that we have, and and try to do the best that we can to make that good for for our country, for ourselves, for our family. So, well, what else you got? I got 5 little principles, and again, these are things that I'm working on too. So these are the principles. You haven't mastered these?
I have not mastered these
Okay.
yet. In fact, I struggle more than anybody with these probably. But it's 5 principles, practical principles, to stay focused.
Okay.
And avoid the crows from pulling you off course.
Yeah.
The first one is to ignore distractions. Sometimes it's better to ignore distractions and focus on our goals and aspirations. And I think a lot of times, I mean, I saw this. Have you seen the movie The Social Network?
Yeah.
There's a war for everyone's mind. I mean, right now there's algorithms that will create content and put it in front of you based on screen time, because the more they can get you to stay on that screen and click, the more ad revenue they can get, the more they learn about you, which they can feed you more content. There's everything from government psychological operations. There's everything from all these. When I say that, it's just like, planting this, that, and the other to kind of keep you distracted or swayed to not look at the real truth.
Yeah.
There's so much out there. So again, if you can't ignore them, turn them off.
Right.
I think it's good to be informed and get nuggets of information rather than dive in and read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Or if there's a podcast you can listen to pick up, quick segments of something like that, it's great. But man, I think so many people just sit around and watch Fox News all day long.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're getting older, but I've seen it in, I've seen it in my grandparents where before, whenever my grandparents are actually in their 90s. And before, like even in their 60s and 70s, that the news was never on, like sports, and like we're watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, but now, I mean, it is 24/7
Yep.
Fox News, and it's just over and over, and people hollering at each other, and this is going on, and can you believe this? And it's just just feeding into you, and whatever side of the aisle you're on, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or whatever, it's all just like you said, it's all just trying to get at you, and it's taking you away from what your true purpose should be, and you get so riled up, with every story that comes up. It's like it's a spark that's like they're just trying to throw, fuel on that flame to just go, hey, how outrageous can we be about this? What can we do about this to blow this up? And so we just got to be so careful about what we take in. It's we're so as a society, we, like you said, we've got so much coming at us all the time now that you've got to be really cognizant of what you're viewing and what you're listening to, and not just letting anything in and letting anything in just unfiltered. If you are listening to anything, you got to say, okay, let me filter that through, whether it's the Bible or whether it's your reasoning or whatever it is that you're going to listen to that day, to make the right choices from there.
Yeah, I got to tell you a funny story about ignoring distractions with incessant news. In my neighborhood, the neighbors across the street, they've got like 5 outside cats. Cats drive me crazy.
So you haven't shot them yet?
No, I let the dogs explore that, but the cats were too fast. But there's one cat that's cool. His name's Leo. He's like a little orange cat. And he goes around the neighborhood, and he's got like a little routine, and he has 3 or 4 people down the street that feed him. I don't feed him, but he comes over, and that's the one cat I'll pet.
Yeah. And
so we started like figuring out where Leo would go, because he was just like, he's a wanderer, right? And so, he's going to see, he's not very, he's not a single cat, let's put it this way.
Gotcha.
He's got a lot of different lady friends, right?
Yeah.
So I named him Jigaleo. So so I was on Amazon, and I saw this GPS cat tracker. And I thought, okay, this would be interesting. So before I bought it, I texted my neighbor. I'm like, hey, what if I got a GPS tracker? Could we put it on Leo? Because it's her cat.
Yeah.
It's not my cat.
Right.
So she's like, yeah, that'd be kind of funny. So I ordered it. In 3 hours, it was at my door. They've got, the warehouses here and everything. So it's great. So charged that bad boy up, got the subscription, walked it over there, put it on this cat. Now, they let it out. And at night, I mean, it goes like 4 or 5 miles. It's got like a trail through 3 neighborhoods, goes by the hospital. I mean, this thing, this thing moves, right?
Yeah.
So you can watch real time and figure out where Leo is at any point in time. And then we learned you can share that with other people. So if they had the link, they could all tune in and watch.
Yeah.
So I'm on this call, and I had my screen up because it's like the day. And so I'm meeting with some, big realtors and coaches and all that.
Yeah.
And I would go to share my screen for something. I forgot that Leo's thing is up there, right? And they're like, what is this? Is that your running pad? Because it looks like, a jogger.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no, that's the cat. So they're like, oh, we got kids. Let me see this. And anyways, they're like, hey, can you share that with us? And then I started sharing it with a couple other people. Well, there's about 5 or 6 older ladies in the neighborhood. And they all like Leo, So we were telling them about it, and we're like, hey, I'll share this with you. So I shared the link with them.
Yeah.
So they're all watching this cat, right?
Right.
So Friday rolls along. I think this was like Monday or Tuesday I put this tracker on. So Friday rolls along, and I see all these ladies out walking in the neighborhood going to this one lady's house. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? And like, oh, we're having a wine and watch party tonight for Leo.
Oh my God.
And so they went over there, and they all got together that night, and they did it for several weeks before. And one of the older ladies said, thank you so much for doing that, for getting that tracker, because all I would do all day was watch Fox News, but now I have something to do. I can watch this cat or something.
Watching Leo walk the neighborhood.
Yeah. But man, I mean, you got to get away and do something. And that one lady, you see her out there, she goes, and when I'm walking, she's out there all the time now looking for Leo and whatever. Yeah. And so something that was funny turned into something that was beneficial and good because it got them away from the news. I can't even watch it on mute.
Do it.
I can't. My grandmother's in the hospital and that thing, it was actually the day that Trump was indicted. And I'm like, oh man, this is driving me nuts. I just don't like to listen to all this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I like to read the condensed version and move on. But
yeah. Yeah. Cause they all talk about it for hours and hours and you hear the just same stuff over and over again. And but
second thing is prioritize our goals. We already talked about writing goals down, but prioritize our time and energy in the things that matter most to us and not let minor setbacks or distractions hinder our progress. I think that's one of the things that's the biggest part is minor setbacks will just stop. Yeah. If you're not perfectly down that path, it's over.
Yeah. So you're talking about your diet and losing some weight. And man, there's been so many times where whether it's been a workout regimen or whether it's a diet that you're following and like you'll have followed it to the T and then you get on that scale and that scale says you're either the same weight or you're like 0.2 or 0.3 pounds heavier. I'm like, screw this, I'm out. Like it hasn't been worth it for what I'm doing. Yeah. But it's like, it's like you see with, like whenever you're doing stocks or when you're investing, it's not always going to be like this. There's always going to be the ups and downs, but over time, hopefully your investment's going up, and it's the same way with your weight. It's going to probably be a little up and down to where it's not just going to be a straight line down, but it's in our minds, man, it's so difficult to get that, whenever you get on the scale in the morning and you feel like you've just, starved yourself for the last 24 hours and your body says, oh yeah, you're 0.2 pounds heavier now. That's where you got to go, okay, you know what? We've got a goal. We have a little hiccup here. That doesn't mean that the party's over and, I'm going to gain 17 pounds now. It's okay. What do I need to do? Do I need to make any adjustments or is my body now adjusting to what I'm doing, and go from there. And it's the same thing with any of our goals or what we're doing in life. It's like, just take a breath, just take a step back for a second, take a breath, realize what's going on and realize what you're looking at is a whole book instead of just this one page, of the story, because that may be the worst part of the whole book right here. But if you're able to read the whole story, it's a beautiful thing if you just continue on. So it's a whole lot easier said than done, but it's something that we probably all know, but we need to hear it, over and over again, just to remind ourselves. And, if someone's going through that right now.
Yeah. I think discouragement is one of the biggest things that'll throw us off. I remember I was, on the Bible app, it tells you how many consecutive days you did it.
Yeah.
And I remember I was almost to 90 and I forgot a day or was traveling or something like that and didn't do it. The next day I logged in and it set back to one.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm not reading this thing anymore. Right. I was so mad at that thing.
Yeah.
But I'm almost to 90 again and I'd make sure I do it every morning. But yeah, I think a lot of times if you have a cheat meal, it's just easier to keep cheating than go back. If you miss an exercise or if you miss, something, it's just like you said, it's the average of the mean,
right?
Instead of judging the individual. But I think we all want to judge the individual.
Oh, absolutely.
Like this morning, since last Sunday, it was steady or even it all went down. And today I was 0.2 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, what in the world? But it's all right because yesterday I was really hungry and I ate a little bit more, but gaining 0.2 pounds, that's fine. And when you're down 10. Right. So you know what? That's fine. I'll just walk extra, I'll work out extra, do what I need to do extra. I have an overall plan of 30 days. I'm trying to do this. And then we'll see where it's out. But here's the thing. I also took into consideration the real reason I was doing this. I wanted more energy. I wanted more focus. I wanted to be healthier. If I'm 0.2 pounds more, maybe that means I gain more 0.2 pounds of my muscles or something.
Sir. Yeah.
Always take
Welcome to the gun show.
Which way's the weight room?
Exactly.
So, you just always have to have that redemptive perspective, like we talked about that, take what could be bad information and turn around to what potentially be good.
Yeah. Yeah, so number 3 says to choose your battles wisely. Be wise, don't let pride or anger dictate our actions.
I'm glad you read that, because I was having a hard time reading that, because anger dictates my actions way too much just to be completely, and not at people,
right?
Like one-on-one, well, a little bit, but
yeah.
I just I'll get real mad at the stuff I see in the news. Like, I'll get real mad about it.
Yeah.
And I don't need to do that, because I can't change it.
Yeah, that's something that my dad has taught me, and it's something, again, just like you said, I have definitely not gotten really good at. Whenever I was younger, man, because I've always loved college football, but whenever my team would lose, man, I remember I threw something in the house. And so, of course, my dad got upset with me, but then he sat me down and he taught me, and he said, you're looking at things wrong. You have to look at what you can control, because there's things that you can control and there's things that are outside of your circle of control. And what sense does it make if you're all upset about these things that are outside of your control? What does it matter? You're not going to be able to change it. And not that we don't want to help change the world or, make a difference, but there's a lot of things in life, whether it's the news or different things that go on, that we have no control over. Like, somebody else, say there's something that they don't like you for some reason, and it's something that you did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You can't control the way they feel about you. So instead of getting down and mopey and, think, oh, I'm a loser because of that, say, you know what? I can control who I am. I can control my emotions and my response and reaction to that. And I'm just going to be a better person. And, like the eagle, just continue to soar and go higher. So, again, real easy to say, real hard to do.
Yeah, with pride, I hate losing.
Yeah.
I mean, I will do whatever I can to not lose. But I got to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, out of control, it should be, not making it a situation where it affects you and your health and your life. I'm the same way about sports too. I mean, college football. Oh yeah, man. I mean,
I know.
We've been in the same house where I think if we had stuff to throw, we'd still throw it. But I mean, that is good advice, because it's one of those things that, there's just a lot that, I mean, the people that just let that, water fall off a duck's back. I mean, it's like, man,
yeah, I envy those type of people.
No kidding. I mean, I don't know. I think you definitely want to win, but you have to understand that even if you lose, to learn from the loss what you can do to get better. And again, there's a lot of things you can't control,
Yeah.
Other people.
Right.
And that's where it kind of comes out. But yeah, I think that's a big area that I definitely am probably going to work on the rest of my life.
Yep, you and me both, brother, for sure.
And then this is interesting. Number 4, take the high road. Not engaging in conflict can be the best option, even if we have the power to do so. There are so many times I want to respond to every single thing I see that people say that's stupid or they're uneducated or any of that stuff, but there's so many times you just have to keep scrolling on by and say, you know what, I'm not going to engage in that. There's an interesting article I found, and I remember hearing this about Abraham Lincoln, about how he would just write the most ridiculous letters.
Yep, read that.
And there's an article here, The Lost Art of the Unsent Angry Letter.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Abraham Lincoln felt the urge to tell someone off, he would compose what he called a hot letter. He'd pile all his anger into a note, put it aside until his emotions cooled down, and then write "never sent, never signed," which meant that General George G. Meade, for one, would never hear his commander-in-chief that Lincoln blamed him for letting Robert Lee Lee escape after Gettysburg. Lincoln was hardly unique among public figures who needed to think twice about their choice words. The unsent angry letter has a venerable tradition. Its purpose is twofold. It serves as a type of emotional catharsis, a way to let it all out without the repercussions of true engagement, and it acts as a strategic catharsis, an exercise in saying what you really think, which Mark Twain, himself a notable non-sender of correspondence, believed provided unallowable frankness and freedom.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we need to write it out instead of tweet it or whatever. And that's an area where I just, like I said, I take a lot of time, pride, again, to educate myself on certain issues.
Right.
And people that would say something that just, like a drive-by, just say something stupid. I'm really?
Yeah.
Really? They had an article the other day, for instance, about the gay pride parade in Florida being canceled after DeSantis made the law that required you have to be an adult to go to this. So I just put so much winning, right? Because I read the article. Everybody's like, the government shouldn't be able to shut these down or whatever. Well, the true thing behind the story is the group shut it down themselves because they said that if they weren't allowed to bring kids, they weren't doing it. Well, to me, that's a win because kids shouldn't be sexualized.
Yeah.
So that's the context of the article. But no one reads the context of the article. So I, in choosing your fights, I just ignored it. Want to respond back and say, hey, you moron, you should read the story and understand the context before you make complete false allegations. But I didn't. And it's kind of like the one after the shooting. I wanted to go after transgenders, but I didn't. Because I understand how broken those people are and how much, just how turmoil and mental illness that they truly have, and I think that's what I'm working on, to step back and say, like Steve was talking about in that podcast, one of his listeners said that he was able to forgive the man who sexually assaulted him after he watched that movie Nefarious, because he felt empathy for him, because if a guy could do that, the listener said, if a guy could do that to me, sexually assault me, I can't imagine how broken he was to do that.
That was powerful.
That was. And that's where it's just, and it goes back to, Viktor Frankl and what Man's Search for Meaning and all those principles. We won't, relive those on every single podcast we do, but I think that's so important to think through that redemptive perspective. And that was it on a platter right there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, I mean, this stuff is so powerful and so good. And it's like, man, if we could just capture just one or two of these things, to work on, I think it would stop a lot of the fighting that's going on, because it's so many, whether it's from the left or the right, just people arguing, and it's like, what, we're all humans here. We all have to live together. God's given us this one planet. Let's all just figure out a way. We can still have differences, just like we've talked on one of the other, I think a couple podcasts ago, where it's like, back in the day, everybody got along fine. Didn't matter if you were left, right, what you believed in, it was fine. We could all still sit down at the dinner table, and that's the way it still can be today. It's just sometimes everybody on both sides needs to learn, hey, control your tongue. Just think before you react, think before you just blurt out things, and I think things would be a whole lot better.
Yeah, the Bible says the tongue is a rudder steering the ship.
Yeah.
How true is that?
Yeah.
How true is that? And the last one, stay true to your values. You already talked about that. Staying focused, stay calm, stay true to our values and aspirations, even in the face of adversity or distractions. I would probably add to that persecution. Because if you're true to your values, and today in our time, the Bible has promised us that we will face persecution. I think we're seeing that on the rise. But that's something kind of like with that article, we're going to have to sacrifice, and we're going to have to stand up and risk losing certain things to stay true to what we believe. But that's what we're called to do.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we need to do.
For sure. Yeah, it's so difficult, but and like I said, we've got to figure out what it is that we're going to stand for. What do we value, and what are we willing to give up, to hold on to those values and to hold on to those truths that we believe in, and it's just something that each person really needs to think deeply about, because it definitely gives life more meaning whenever you've got those truths, those values that you hold on to, that you go, this is something that I don't bend for right here. This is something that I'm not going to break about, that, this is the stopping point. And so, it gives us all something to think about and move from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you almost have to assess and say, is my time better served to do this or this? Am I better served to scroll through social media and get upset and make myself angry, or am I more served to go do a walk or work out or spend time with my family or call someone I hadn't talked to in a long time, that kind of thing. John Gordon, he does a thank you walk every day. He gets up in the morning, just goes, and he just tells God what he's thankful for. That's a great use of your time, especially to start your day. I mean, you start your day with gratitude and thankfulness.
For sure.
And it just fills your mind, with positive energy. And I think that's something, again, I'm saying this to me more than anybody, but it's like, these are things, because sometimes if I wake up and see a story, it just gets your blood flowing and just kind of makes your mood.
Yeah. Could ruin your whole day right from the start.
Yeah, ruin the whole day right from the start. So I think it's good to block that off, to recap. Ignore distractions, prioritize. That's a hard word to say. Prioritize your goals. That and rural. Rural has always been a hard word for me to say. Start again. Ignore distractions, prioritize our goals, choose your battles wisely, taking the high road, and stay true to your values.
It's good stuff, man.
We've got crows all around. We've got to be eagles.
Yep.
We got to just ignore all the little nonsense there. And then we have to understand we're designed for a higher altitude, and that's that story. So that's like I said, that one text, sparked that off. But I think it's a great word for a lot of people that are out there that sometimes need to fast, sometimes need to reprioritize, maybe write their goals down.
Yeah.
Just get things in focus and perspective. And again, man, if we can learn to just kind of keep our vision forward and not let all the little stuff behind our neck get us, I think we'll be in a lot better style.
Absolutely. Very good, man. That's definitely stuff for me to work on as well. So I'll take that and take a couple points and try to chip away at a little bit this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you watching for the Free Thinkers Podcast. Go to freethinkerspodcast.com and sign up for text and email alerts, and follow us on all our platforms. We are on Gab TV. That's our main platform. Rumble, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that other stuff. Also on Brighteon. And so until next time, we hope you have a good week. Don't get distracted. Love y'all.